3 months after the war ended, the battlefield was still growing. Admiral Zexstar stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring through the observation viewport at an ocean of drifting wreckage. Twisted hull plates, shattered weapons, and broken engines floated silently through the void, slowly turning in the light of distant stars. Some of the debris carried the insignia of his own fleet. The rest belonged to humanity. The graveyard stretched for thousands of kilometers, a silent monument to the bloodiest conflict the galaxy had witnessed in centuries. This was all that remained of the Third Terran War. The third time the great powers of the galaxy had united to conquer the small blue world called Earth. The third time they had failed. Zexstar lowered his gaze to the scar running across his left arm. Even through advanced regeneration treatments, it still burned whenever he remembered the final battle. A single human weapon had come within centimeters of ending his life, a reminder that humanity's greatest strength had never been their numbers or their technology. It was the terrifying refusal to lose. Looking out across the endless field of wreckage, the Admiral understood a truth the rest of the galaxy still refused to accept. There would never be a fourth Terran War. The humans called it a railgun, a simple device that fired metal bars at incredible speed. Nothing fancy about it, but it could punch through the strongest alien armor like paper. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "the council meeting will begin soon." Zexstar nodded. Representatives from all the major powers in the galaxy were gathering today. The Vorak Empire, with their crystal bodies that could live for thousands of years. The HFY Collective, where millions of insect-like creatures shared one mind, and his own people. The Hegemony Coalition, the greatest military force the galaxy had ever known. They all had the same question. How did the humans keep winning? The first war had been 50 years ago. Earth was new to space travel. They had only just learned to fly between stars. The Vorak Empire decided to claim Earth as a colony. It should have been easy. The humans had primitive weapons and small ships. But the humans fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. They threw their tiny ships at massive alien dreadnoughts. They sent soldiers on suicide missions to destroy enemy weapons. When the Vorak thought they had won, human civilians picked up guns and kept fighting. The war lasted 10 years. In the end, the Vorak retreated. They told everyone that Earth was not worth the cost. 20 years later, the HFY Collective tried next. They were smarter than the Vorak. They studied human tactics. They built countermeasures for human weapons. They attacked with overwhelming force. The humans were ready for them. Somehow they had built new weapons in those 20 years. Weapons that could destroy entire ships with one shot. They had learned to hack into HFY communication networks. They turned the aliens' shared mind against them. That war lasted 5 years. Again, the humans won. Then came Zexstar's turn. The Hegemony Coalition was different from the others. They were not arrogant like the Vorthak or overconfident like the Zephi. They spent 30 years studying every human battle, every human weapon, every human tactic. The coalition built the largest fleet in galactic history. They created new weapons specifically designed to fight humans. They even hired human criminals who had fled Earth to help them understand how human minds worked. The Third Terran War should have been the end of humanity. Instead, it became the coalition's worst defeat. The humans had been busy during those 30 years too. They showed up with technologies that should not have existed, ships that could disappear from sensors, weapons that bent space itself, soldiers in armor that made them stronger than any alien. Zexstar remembered the final battle clearly. His flagship, the Pride of Hegemon, was the size of a small moon. It carried enough firepower to destroy planets. A single human ship, no bigger than a fighter, had somehow disabled it in minutes. The human pilot had even sent a message, "Sorry about your ship. You can pick up your crew at the rescue station we set up on Kepler 42b. That was the thing about humans that confused everyone. They fought with terrifying skill and deadly weapons, but they always tried to save enemy survivors. They built hospitals for wounded aliens. They sent food to planets damaged in the fighting. It made no sense to any alien species. When you won a war, you took everything from your enemy. You enslaved them or destroyed them. You did not help them rebuild, but humans always did. Now, as Zexstar prepared for the council meeting, he wondered what the galaxy would decide to do. 3 major powers had tried to conquer Earth. All 3 had failed. Each time, the humans had shown new weapons and abilities that no one expected. The worst part was that no one really knew what humans were capable of. Every time they fought, they seemed to be holding back. They won their wars, but they never pushed their advantage. They never conquered their attackers' worlds in return. They just wanted to be left alone, but the galaxy could not leave them alone. Earth had resources that everyone wanted. Humans had technologies that could change everything. And most important of all, humans were getting stronger every year. Zexstar's personal assistant, a small gray alien named Pip, entered the bridge. "Admiral, I have the latest intelligence reports from Earth," Pip said, holding a datapad. "What do they say?" "Something strange, sir. Our spies report massive construction projects in Earth's solar system. But when our long-range sensors look at those areas, they see nothing. Nothing. Empty space, sir. As if the construction projects are invisible to our technology." Zexstar felt cold fear in his stomach. If humans could hide construction projects that large, what else could they hide? "There's more, sir," Pip continued. "Energy readings from Earth's moon have increased by 400% in the past year, and there are reports of human ships visiting star systems that don't appear on any galactic charts. Secret star systems. That's what it looks like, sir. Places that only humans know about." Zexstar stared out at the floating debris again. 3 wars, 3 defeats, and apparently the galaxy still knew almost nothing about what humans could really do. He thought about something a human prisoner had told him during the last war. The human soldier had been badly wounded, but was still smiling. "You think this is us at our strongest?" the human had said. "Admiral, you have never seen us fight a war we started. You've only seen us when we're forced to defend ourselves. Pray you never see what we can do when we're not trying to minimize casualties." At the time, Zexstar had thought it was just human bravado. Now, he was not so sure. The council meeting would begin soon. The representatives would argue about what to do next. Some would want to try again. Others would suggest making peace. But Zexstar had a terrible feeling that it might already be too late for either option. The humans were patient, but they were not stupid. 3 attacks in 50 years was a clear pattern. They would not wait for a 4th. The question was, what would they do instead? President Sarah Chen walked slowly through the Memorial Garden in what used to be New York City. Black stone walls stretched as far as she could see, covered with names, billions of names. Every human who had died in the 3 wars was listed here. She stopped at a familiar section. The names of her daughter's unit from the Second War, her son's ship crew from the Third War, her husband's name from the First War when she was still just a young scientist. "Ma'am, it's time," said Colonel Martinez, her security chief. Sarah nodded but did not move yet. She touched her husband's name carved into the black stone. "I kept my promise, David," she whispered. "I tried to give them every chance to stop." She turned and walked toward the building where the cameras waited. Today, Earth would send a message to every inhabited world, every space station, every ship in the galaxy. A message that would change everything. The technology to do this had existed for decades. Earth had communication systems that could reach anywhere in the galaxy instantly, but they had never used them for fear of revealing too much about human capabilities. That time was over. Sarah entered the recording studio. It was simple. Just her, a chair, and the flag of United Earth behind her. No fancy effects or decorations. The message needed to be clear and direct. "Broadcasting to all galactic networks in 30 seconds, announced the technician. Sarah sat in the chair and looked directly into the camera. She thought about all the meetings where alien ambassadors had called humans primitive, all the intelligence reports about new invasion fleets being built, all the children who asked why the aliens kept trying to hurt Earth. Broadcasting now, the signal went out from Earth. It traveled through space faster than anything should be able to move. In seconds, it reached every corner of the galaxy, on Vorak crystal worlds, on Zephi hive planets, on coalition military bases. Everyone received the same transmission at exactly the same time. Sarah began to speak. "My name is Sarah Chen, President of United Earth. I am speaking to every intelligent species in the galaxy. You have attacked my people 3 times in the past 50 years. Each time we have defended ourselves. Each time we have won. Each time we have tried to show mercy to those who survived." She paused. Behind her words, images began to appear on screens across the galaxy. Video from the 3 wars. Human soldiers charging alien positions with primitive weapons. Human families huddled in bomb shelters. Cities burning under alien attack. "You have seen us at our weakest." Sarah continued. "You have seen us when we were forced to react, to defend, to merely survive. You mistake our restraint for weakness. You mistake our desire for peace as inability to wage war." The images changed. Now they showed things the galaxy had never seen before. Massive construction sites floating in space near Earth. Structures the size of moons being built by machines that moved faster than the eye could follow. "We have spent 50 years hoping you would learn, hoping you would understand that Earth wants only to be left in peace, hoping that wisdom would eventually overcome greed and aggression." More images appeared. Human ships emerging from what looked like empty space. Weapons. Platforms that had been invisible to all galactic sensors suddenly becoming visible. Technologies that made even ancient alien engineers step back in shock. "You continue to build fleets against us. Your leaders speak openly of a 4th invasion. Your spies try to steal our technology. Your criminals plot attacks on human colonies." Sarah's voice grew harder. "This is our final warning. The next act of aggression against humanity or our allies will be met with absolute destruction. We have prepared for a war we do not want. Do not force us to fight it." The images now showed Earth's solar system as it really was, not as alien sensors perceived it. Weapons platforms surrounded every planet. Massive energy collectors orbited the sun. Construction facilities built ships faster than any galactic shipyard could imagine. "For 50 years, you have fought us when we were defending. You have never faced us when we attack. You have seen our restraint and mistaken it for limitation. You have seen our mercy and mistaken it for weakness." Sarah stood up from her chair. Behind her, the image changed to show a star map. One system was highlighted in red, a dead solar system on the edge of galactic space. "In 72 standard hours, we will provide a demonstration. Any species that wishes to observe may send representatives to these coordinates. You will see what Earth is capable of when we are not concerned with minimizing casualties or protecting infrastructure." She walked closer to the camera. "We do not want this war. We have never wanted any war, but we will not allow our children to grow up under constant threat. We will not rebuild our cities again and again while you plan new attacks. We will not watch our people die, because you cannot accept that some species prefer peace to conquest." The transmission showed one final image. Earth as seen from space. Blue and green and beautiful. But around it, barely visible, was a defensive grid of such complexity and power that it hurt to look at it directly. "Choose wisely. The time for half measures and warnings has passed. The next move is yours. Make it count." The transmission ended. On Vorak homeworld, crystal beings who had lived for thousands of years stared at their screens in silence. The humans had just shown them technology that should not exist, weapons that their own scientists said were theoretically impossible. On Zephi Hive worlds, millions of connected minds tried to process what they had seen. The collective intelligence that had never been wrong about military capabilities could not understand how they had missed something this significant. On coalition military bases, generals and admirals looked at each other with growing horror. They had been planning a 4th invasion for months now, how they wondered if they had been planning their own extinction. Admiral Zexstar watched the transmission from his quarters. When it ended, he sat in darkness for a long time. Finally, he called his aide. "Pip, send a message to Coalition Command. Tell them I recommend we accept the human invitation to observe their demonstration." "Yes, sir." And after that, Zexstar looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humans were preparing to show the galaxy something it was not ready to see. "After that, Pip, we hope they are merciful, because I have a feeling we are about to discover that everything we thought we knew about warfare just became obsolete." The galaxy had 72 hours to decide what to do. But deep down, Many beings already knew there was only one real choice. They could surrender their aggressive plans, or they could face the consequences of forcing humanity to reveal its true nature. Either way, the age of underestimating Earth was about to end forever. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going for 6 hours. Representatives from every major species sat around the massive circular table, but no one could agree on what to do about Earth's message. Ambassador Cathara of the Vorak Empire stood up. Her crystal body caught the light from the chamber's ceiling, making her look like a living jewel. When Vorak spoke, their voices sounded like singing glass. "Fellow beings," Cathara said, her voice ringing through the chamber. "We have maintained order in this galaxy for 10,000 years. We cannot allow these young mammals to threaten everything we have built." She activated a holographic display that showed Earth's transmission. "Look at their technology," Cathara continued. "These weapons they claim to possess. If they truly have such capabilities, why did they not use them in the previous wars? Why did they allow millions of their own kind to die when they could have ended each conflict in days?" Murmurs of agreement came from several delegations. "The answer is simple," Cathara announced. "They are lying. This is an elaborate deception designed to make us afraid. The humans are clever, I will give them that, but they are not gods." From across the table, Prime Mind Zay spoke. Unlike other species, the Zephi collective had no individual representatives. Instead, they sent a single body controlled by their entire civilization's shared consciousness. "The collective has analyzed the transmission data," Z said, in the flat, emotionless tone that all hive minds used. "Energy signatures detected during the broadcast suggest the humans do possess advanced communication technology. However, displaying one advanced technology does not prove the existence of others." The Hegemony Coalition's delegation was split. Admiral Zexstar sat quietly while his colleagues argued among themselves. "We should accept their invitation to observe," said General Quarks. "We need to know what we're dealing with." "Exactly what they want us to think," argued Admiral Thoss. "They invite us to watch their demonstration because they know it will frighten us. Psychological warfare at its finest." Zexstar finally spoke. "I fought them in all 3 wars. I have seen what humans can do when they are desperate. I recommend caution. You recommend fear." Thus snapped. The humans won those wars through luck and alien overconfidence. Nothing more. The debate continued for hours. Representatives shared intelligence reports. Spy networks had been working overtime since the transmission, trying to gather information about human capabilities. The reports were confusing and contradictory. Vorak spies reported massive energy signatures coming from empty space near Earth. When investigated, the sensors found nothing there. It was as if someone had hidden entire fleets in plain sight. Zephi infiltrators tried to hack into human communication networks. They found systems so advanced that their best technicians could not even understand how they functioned. Worse, the humans seemed to know about the intrusion attempts and were playing games with the hackers, leading them in circles through fake data. Coalition reconnaissance ships reported impossible things. Human vessels appearing from nowhere, performing maneuvers that should violate the laws of physics, then disappearing again. Construction projects that changed configuration faster than any known technology could account for. But the strangest reports came from older intelligence files, data that had been overlooked or dismissed during the previous wars. 30 years ago, Coalition sensors had detected unusual energy readings from a system near Earth. When they investigated, they found a star that had died millions of years earlier, suddenly showing signs of activity. The star was not just alive, it was healthier than most young stars. 20 years ago, Vorak explorers had discovered a planet that did not appear on any astronomical charts. The planet was clearly artificial, built from scratch in empty space. When they tried to approach, the planet simply vanished. 15 years ago, Zephi long-range scanners had detected structures in space that were larger than any moon. The structures appeared to be manufacturing facilities, but when the collective sent ships to investigate, they found only empty space. All of these incidents had been dismissed as sensor errors or natural phenomena. Now, intelligence analysts wondered if they had been looking at evidence of human technology all along. Cathara called for order as the debate grew more heated. "Enough speculation," she declared. "The humans have issued a challenge. If we ignore it, we look weak. If we negotiate, we legitimize their threats. There is only one acceptable response." She activated another display showing military positions throughout the galaxy. The Vorak Empire proposes a joint military action, not an invasion of Earth, that has clearly failed. Instead, we sterilize their entire solar system from long range. Complete destruction of all human populations before they can deploy whatever weapons they claim to possess. The chamber erupted in argument. Some species supported the proposal. Others called it genocide. A few suggested diplomatic solutions. Above the noise, Prime Mind Zeph's voice cut through like a blade. "The collective has made a decision. We will attend the human demonstration." Everyone fell silent. The Zephi rarely took definitive positions this quickly. Analysis of available data suggests a 73% probability that human capabilities exceed previous estimates. Zeph continued. "The collective requires additional data before committing to military action." General Quarks nodded. "The coalition will also send observers. We need to know what we're facing." Cathar looked around the chamber. Her proposal had support from about half the delegations, but not enough for a unified response. "Very well," she said. "The Vorthak Empire will also observe this demonstration, but understand, if the humans prove they possess weapons of mass destruction, we will have no choice but to act for the safety of all civilized species." The session ended with no clear agreement. Some species would attend the demonstration, others began mobilizing military forces, a few tried to open diplomatic channels with Earth, but as delegates left the chamber, long-range sensors detected something that made everyone stop and stare at the displays. The dead system that humans had chosen for their demonstration was showing signs of activity. The star that had been cold and lifeless for millions of years was beginning to glow. "That's impossible," whispered to Orthak technician. "Stars don't just restart themselves." Zexstar studied the sensor readings with growing unease. The energy signature coming from the dead system was unlike anything in the databases. It was as if someone was not just igniting the dead star, but rebuilding it from the quantum level up. Admiral Pip said quietly, "Should we reconsider attending the demonstration?" Zexstar watched as the dead star grew brighter with each passing hour. Whatever the humans were doing, they were doing it gradually, carefully, as if fine-tuning something incredibly complex. "No, Pip, we need to see this. The galaxy needs to know what it's dealing with, but privately." Zexstar wondered if they were about to witness something that would change not just military doctrine, but the very foundation of how life in the galaxy understood reality itself. The countdown to the demonstration had begun. Across the galaxy, fleets prepared to travel to the coordinates Earth had provided. None of them were prepared for what they would find there. The humans had spent 72 hours turning a dead system into something entirely new, not just rebuilding it, but improving it, reshaping it according to specifications that no alien mind could comprehend. And this was just the preparation for their demonstration. The galaxy was about to learn that everything they thought they knew about technology, warfare, and the limits of possibility had been wrong from the beginning. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus and watched as alien fleets gathered at the edge of the dead system. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species had come to witness Earth's demonstration. Some came as observers, others came expecting to see human technology fail. All of them were about to have their understanding of reality changed forever. "Captain," her science officer reported, "we're detecting massive electromagnetic signatures from the approaching fleets. They're scanning us with everything they have." Maria smiled. "Let them look. They won't understand what they're seeing anyway." The Prometheus was not an impressive ship by alien standards. It was only 300 meters long, smaller than most alien frigates. It had no visible weapons, no massive armor plating, no energy shields that alien sensors could detect. What the aliens could not see was that the Prometheus was built from materials that existed in 17 different dimensions simultaneously. Its hull was made from collapsed spacetime woven into a solid structure. Its engines did not push against space. They rewrote the fundamental laws of physics around the ship. Incoming transmission from the Vorak flagship, the communications officer announced. Put it through. Ambassador Cathara's crystal face appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Maria could see the bridge of a ship that was 50 times larger than the Prometheus human vessel. Cathra said, "We have come as requested. The galaxy is watching. Do not disappoint us with cheap tricks and special effects." Ambassador Maria replied politely, "Thank you for coming. I promise you will see something memorable today. Please ensure your ships maintain a safe distance of at least 10 light hours from our demonstration zone." Cathar laughed. 10 light hours? Human, your entire species could not build a weapon that could threaten ships at that distance. For your safety, Maria said firmly. Not mine. The transmission ended. Maria looked at her crew. They were all volunteers for this mission. Each of them understood what they were about to reveal to the galaxy. "All stations report ready," announced her first officer. "Very well. Begin the demonstration." The science officer touched his controls. Deep in the ship's core, systems that had taken humanity 50 years to develop came online. These were not weapons in any conventional sense. They were tools, designed for the largest engineering projects imaginable. Target acquired. The science officer reported. The demonstration will begin with a Class 7 reality anchor. Maria nodded. Proceed. The Prometheus fired a single projectile toward the recently revived star. The projectile was tiny, barely the size of a marble, but it was made from compressed quantum fields, held together by mathematical equations, written directly into the fabric of space. Alien sensors detected the launch immediately. Across the gathered fleets, weapons officers reported that the humans had fired some kind of missile. Admiral Zexstar watched his displays with growing confusion. "Sir, the projectile is moving at impossible speeds," his sensor operator reported. "It's not using any propulsion system we can detect. It's just moving through space as if space is getting out of its way." "How fast?" Zexstar asked. "Faster than light, sir. But it's not using hyperspace or any known FTL method. It's moving through normal space at impossible speeds." On the Prometheus, Maria watched as the projectile approached the star. Impact in 10 seconds. All hands observe safety protocols. The projectile touched the star's surface. Reality hiccuped. That was the only way alien observers could describe what happened next. The laws of physics seemed to pause for a moment, as if the universe was checking its calculations. Then the star began to change. It did not explode. It did not collapse. Instead, it began to fold inward on itself, in ways that hurt to look at directly. Space around the star started behaving strangely. Light bent in impossible directions. Gravity fluctuated wildly. "What are they doing?" Cathar demanded from her command ship. Her science officer stared at his instruments in shock. "Ambassador, they appear to be rewriting the quantum structure of the star itself. They're changing it from hydrogen and helium into something that shouldn't exist." The effect spread outward from the star, in a controlled wave. As it touched the planets in the system, they began to dissolve, not explode, not burn, but simply cease to exist in any recognizable form. Matter broke down into constituent atoms, then into subatomic particles, then into pure energy, then into something beyond energy. But this was not destruction, it was transformation. Admiral Zexstar watched in horror as an entire planet disappeared from his sensors. Then another, then the asteroid belt between the third and fourth planets simply ended. "Sir," his sensor operator said in a shaking voice, "the planets aren't being destroyed, they're being reorganized at the quantum level." "Reorganized into what?" "I don't know, sir. Something that our physics says can't exist on the Prometheus." Maria spoke calmly into her communicator. "Attention all observing vessels. What you are witnessing is a standard terraforming tool. We use this technology to modify solar systems for large-scale construction projects." She paused as another planet dissolved into pure mathematics. "The process you are observing is completely reversible. We are not destroying anything. We are temporarily converting matter into information, storing it in quantum memory, and preparing to rebuild it according to improved specifications." Cathar's voice cut through the communications channel. "Impossible. No species in the galaxy possesses such technology." Maria's voice remained calm. "Ambassador, No species in the galaxy has ever needed such technology. Humans have different requirements for large-scale engineering. The wave of transformation reached the outer planets. Gas giants the size of small stars simply folded out of existence, leaving behind patterns of energy that alien sensors could not interpret. Within 30 minutes, the entire solar system had been reduced to its component information. 8 planets, 2 asteroid belts, hundreds of moons, and billions of tons of matter had been converted into pure data and stored in quantum memory banks aboard the Prometheus, where a solar system had existed. There was now only empty space with the reborn star floating alone. Phase 1 complete, Maria announced. Beginning Phase 2, reconstruction with improvements.
Phase 1 complete. Phase 1. Phase 1 complete. Phase 1 complete.
The Prometheus fired a second projectile. This one contained the stored quantum information from the dissolved solar system, along with additional programming that would rebuild everything better than before. The empty space around the star began to shimmer. Slowly, carefully, planets began to rematerialize, but these were not the same worlds that had been there before. These planets were perfect spheres with carefully designed continents and optimized atmospheric compositions. The first planet reappeared in exactly the same orbit as before, but now it had 3 moons instead of 1, and the moons were positioned to create perfect tidal patterns. The second planet materialized with vast crystal formations that would serve as natural energy collectors. One by one, the planets came back. Each one was improved, optimized, perfect in ways that would take natural evolution billions of years to achieve. The demonstration took exactly 4 hours from start to finish. When it was over, the solar system looked almost the same as before, except that everything was now precisely arranged according to mathematical perfection. Maria opened a channel to all the observing fleets. Demonstration complete. As you can see, our reconstruction tools can modify entire solar systems according to our specifications. She paused, letting the implications sink in. This is a construction tool. We use it for large-scale engineering projects. It requires considerable precision to avoid uncontrolled expansion beyond the target area. Another pause. A weapon would be far more energetic and far less precise. The communication channel was silent for a long time. Finally, Cathara's voice came through, much quieter than before. How? How long have you possessed this technology? Maria smiled. Ambassador, we began developing quantum restructuring tools shortly after the First Terran War. We realized that defensive wars would eventually require us to rebuild damaged infrastructure quickly and efficiently. You built this to fix things originally. Yes. The military applications became obvious later. Admiral Zexstar activated his own communication channel. Captain Santos, if this is a construction tool, what do your actual weapons look like? Maria's smile faded. Admiral, you really don't want to know, and I hope you never have to find out. The alien fleets began to withdraw from the demonstration zone. They had come expecting to see human technology fail. Instead, they had witnessed capabilities that redefined what was possible in the universe. As the Prometheus prepared to return to Earth, Maria looked out at the perfectly reconstructed solar system. Humanity had just shown the galaxy a tiny sample of what they were capable of. The message was clear. Earth did not bluff. When humans warned about absolute destruction, they meant exactly what they said. The only question now was whether the galaxy would be smart enough to listen. 3 months after the demonstration, the galaxy looked very different. On the Vorak homeworld, crystal beings who had lived for thousands of years gathered in their council of ages. These ancient creatures had seen empires rise and fall, had witnessed the birth and death of stars, had considered themselves the wise guardians of galactic civilization. Now they sat in silence trying to understand how wrong they had been about everything. The humans have declined our offer of alliance, announced Council Elder Zeral. They have also declined to join the Galactic Council. They have declined all offers of trade agreements, technology exchanges, and diplomatic treaties. Another elder, Vormok the Ancient, spoke in a voice like ringing crystal. What reason did they give? President Chen's response was simple. We tried to warn you gently. You forced our hand. We bear no malice, but we will not be tested again. The council chamber fell silent once more. For 10,000 years, the Vorthok Empire had been the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Their technology was envied, their wisdom respected, their military feared. The humans had made all of that irrelevant in 4 hours. On the HFY collective worlds, millions of connected minds struggled with a problem they had never faced before: the complete failure of their logical analysis. The collective intelligence that had never been wrong about military capabilities had missed something so fundamental that it called their entire existence into question. Prime Mind Z stood before the central processing core, trying to explain the impossible to its fellow minds. Analysis of human demonstration suggests technological advancement beyond our mathematical models. It reported previous estimates of human capabilities were incorrect by factors of 10,000 or more. The collective consciousness shifted uneasily. Millions of thoughts processed the same terrible conclusion. If humans could rebuild solar systems as a construction project, what could they do when they actually tried to destroy something? New analysis indicates humans have possessed these capabilities for minimum 50 years. Prime Mind, Z continued. Probability assessment. Humans allowed us to attack them. Humans allowed us to damage their worlds. Humans allowed millions of their people to die. The implications crashed through the collective like a wave. The humans had not just won the 3 wars. They had chosen to fight those wars defensively when they could have ended them in minutes. "Query why?" asked a million voices at once. Prime Mind Zeph had no answer that made sense. In Coalition space, Admiral Zexstar sat in his retirement home on Kepler Station writing his memoirs. His military career was over. After witnessing the human demonstration, he had immediately resigned his commission and recommended that the Coalition abandon all aggressive plans against Earth. He wrote slowly, trying to find words to explain what he had learned. "We mistook their reluctance to destroy us for inability to do so. For 50 years, humanity could have ended any threat to their species with tools we did not even know existed. They chose instead to fight defensively, to minimize casualties on all sides. To try to resolve conflicts without revealing their true nature." Zexstar paused, remembering the perfect reconstruction of the solar system. The humans had not just demonstrated power, they had demonstrated precision, the ability to reshape reality itself with surgical accuracy. Humanity's greatest weapon was never their technology, he continued writing. It was their choice to use it sparingly. They could have ended our civilizations at any point in the past 1,000 years. They chose instead to let us grow, to learn, to mature. He thought about all the battles he had fought, all the human ships he had destroyed, all the human soldiers who had died fighting against impossible odds. Now he understood. Those humans had died to protect a secret that would have terrified the galaxy. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Chen stood in her office, overlooking the rebuilt city of New Geneva. Outside her window, she could see children playing in parks that had been bomb craters just 5 years ago. Construction robots worked quietly in the distance, using the same quantum manipulation technology that had amazed the galaxy, but scaled down for peaceful purposes. "Ma'am," said her aide, "we're receiving requests from 47 species asking for permission to study our reconstruction technology." "Denied," Chen said without hesitation. "All of them. Ma'am, some of these requests come from species facing environmental disasters. The Kepler colonies are running out of atmosphere. The Tieti worlds are losing their magnetic fields. We could help them." Chen turned from the window. "And what happens when we help them? They study our tools. They try to reverse engineer our technology. Eventually, someone figures out how to weaponize quantum restructuring." She walked to her desk and activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red markers indicated species that had participated in attacks on human colonies. Yellow markers showed species that were building military forces. Green markers indicated the few civilizations that had genuinely peaceful intentions. There were not many green markers. The galaxy had 3 opportunities to choose peace. Chen said they chose war every time. Now they get to live with the consequences of that choice. Her aide looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, some of our own people are saying we should be more generous. The demonstration worked. No one is threatening us anymore. Maybe it's time to start sharing our technology." Chen activated another display. This one showed intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Despite the demonstration, some species were still trying to develop weapons that could threaten Earth. Others were attempting to steal human technology. A few were even discussing the possibility of uniting all galactic civilizations in a final assault against humanity. Our own people forget that fear and respect are temporary emotions. Chen said, "In a few generations, alien species will convince themselves that our demonstration was a trick. They will decide that humans are just another species that can be conquered with enough force." She closed the displays and looked out at the peaceful city again. "We have achieved what we wanted, the safety of our species and the freedom to develop without interference. That is enough." Across the galaxy, the new reality settled into place. Trade routes adjusted around human space, giving Earth a wide berth. Military planners quietly shelved invasion scenarios and focused on defending against possible human expansion instead. Xenobiologists debated whether humanity was actually a single species or some kind of collective superintelligence wearing human masks. On some worlds, the humans were worshipped as gods. On others, they were feared as demons. Most civilizations simply tried not to think about them at all. But a few species began to change their fundamental approach to existence. If beings could possess such power and choose not to use it for conquest, perhaps there were other ways to organize galactic civilization. Perhaps the constant cycle of war and expansion that had defined the galaxy for millennia was not inevitable after all. The Altarian Republic disbanded its military and declared permanent neutrality. The Silicon Collective began developing technologies focused entirely on healing and creation rather than destruction. The Free Traders Union established new routes that avoided all military checkpoints and refused to carry weapons as cargo. It was a small start, but it was something. Admiral Zexstar finished the last page of his memoirs with a simple observation. Humanity's final lesson to the galaxy was not about power or technology. It was about choice. Every day, every species in the galaxy chooses between creation and destruction, between cooperation and conquest, between wisdom and arrogance. The humans chose correctly. They had the power to rule the galaxy, and they chose instead to simply exist in peace. The rest of us must now decide what we will choose, knowing that someone is watching who has the ability to enforce consequences for our decisions. For the first time in galactic history, there are beings among us who are truly powerful enough to create lasting peace, not through conquest, but through the simple threat of absolute consequences for those who refuse to let peace exist. As Zexstar sealed his memoirs and prepared them for publication, he wondered if future generations would understand the gift humanity had given the galaxy. Not the gift of advanced technology or military protection, but the gift of knowing that somewhere in the darkness of space, there were beings who possessed ultimate power and chose to use it only for defense. The galaxy's age of casual warfare was over. Humanity had not conquered anyone, had not established an empire, had not even demanded tribute or acknowledgement. They had simply made it clear that the cost of aggression had become too high for any rational species to pay. Whether the galaxy would learn from this lesson or eventually forget, it remained to be seen. But for now, for the first time in recorded history, the number of active military conflicts in the galaxy was approaching zero. Earth's final warning had become the galaxy's first real chance at lasting peace.